I've realized in my adult life that some people eat Thanksgiving at like noon or 2 p.m., which is crazy to me. And again, it's just crazy because it's not what I'm used to. We would eat dinner at like sometimes as late as 9 o'clock before and after Thanksgiving. We always had soup.
Wednesday night pasta.
True, the night before. So we would get to my uncle's house the night before Thanksgiving, and he would always make pasta. He would do red sauce with sausage and meatballs, and then he would do pesto. Okay, and a salad. Sorry. She can't help herself. Ah! Welcome back to Dinner with Friends. We are in a new kitchen. We've got a new crew here, but we're gonna have the same amount of fun, hopefully more fun, because this will be a little bit more official than our last time. We are here out in the Hamptons in my new kitchen, which I'm so excited about, and we are cooking Friendsgiving. Why am I saying Friendsgiving and not Thanksgiving? That is because I personally do not host Thanksgiving dinner in my family. My uncle has hosted it every year since I was a kid, and his Thanksgivings are a large reason why I fell in love with cooking and hosting. Oh, we have a special visitor. This is my dog, but my parents' dog, Millie. I consider her my sister, and we love each other very much. And also, I would like to introduce a very special guest, my sous chef, Seth.
Hey everyone.
He has been helping me with all of the recipe testing that we endured during the curation of this menu, and he is my partner in crime today and every day. He's also a private chef in the Hamptons. We met on TikTok. So go follow him at Chef Seth Boylan.
Yes.
And let's get cooking because we're gonna try to cook Friendsgiving dinner in 4 hours. But I believe in us. We've got 2 private chefs here. What could go wrong? I probably just jinxed myself, but. Okay, we're here at Halsey Farm in Watermill. We're picking up some local produce. I need a ton of winter squash, some potatoes for mashed potatoes, fresh herbs, Brussels sprouts, fennel, celery, onions, shallots, all of the Thanksgiving regulars. These are really fun. The key to a successful Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving, or dinner party in general is lots and lots of planning. Tomorrow we're cooking for 8 people, which isn't so bad. Space out your grocery shopping. I like to get the dry goods and the pantry items earlier in the week, and then start trickling in the produce, and then we get cooking. The first recipe today that we are going to prep are the homemade dinner rolls. These are stuffing flavored Parker House rolls. So they're infused with the flavors of Thanksgiving herbs, and they have all of the soft, chewy, pillowy butteriness of a traditional Parker House roll. And they do have to rise for about an hour, so that's why we're gonna get started on those first. Now, Parker House rolls are very similar to a traditional Japanese milk bread in that they start by making this paste before you add it to the rest of the dough ingredients. And this paste will keep the doughs moist and fluffy and delicious. 3 tablespoons of water, 3 tablespoons of milk, and 2 tablespoons of flour that we're gonna cook over medium heat until thick. And we're just gonna cook this out until it's like nice and toasted. We're just cooking it for 3 to 5 minutes. And now we're just gonna combine this with the rest of our dough ingredients. I'm gonna let it cool off for a hot sec. I think that making homemade dinner rolls is the most power move of all power moves in Thanksgiving, because fresh bread is like the greatest gift that anyone could give. Honestly, like if you're going to someone else's Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving, this would be a great thing to bring as a guest because they reheat super well, and you can make them the day before, heat them up before dinner. They're such a treat. While that cools off, we're gonna get to the star of the show. Don't be mad at me. We're not making turkey today. Since it's Friendsgiving, I wanted to create a menu that was easy to replicate in home kitchens of all shapes and sizes. I have lived in an apartment for the past 10 years of my life. I've hosted many Friendsgivings. I've made turkey in many different ways. I've done a roast turkey breast, I've done a stuffed turkey breast, I've done a whole turkey, and I've come to the conclusion that it's just like not worth it. Do I think turkey is required on Thanksgiving Day? Yes, but there's no reason to put yourself through that twice a year. So we're doing chicken because chicken is just like delicious. It's a lot easier to roast in a small oven. If you're not having 30, 50 people at your Friendsgiving, again, why would you need a 30-pound bird? It's all about the side dishes anyway, so like everyone can relax. I don't know if I told you this. We've only been in this house for like 5 days. I've only cooked in this kitchen twice before doing this. So that's definitely gonna play into the chaos. I definitely recommend investing in oven thermometers. You can buy them on Amazon. I got a pack of 3 for like 15 bucks. And it just like keeps your oven honest. And it's really important to have one of these when you're cooking many things in your oven at one time because you can get an accurate read of what is the actual temperature inside of my oven. Now, let's talk about our chickens. These are not just your ordinary roast chickens. This recipe is called my festive roast chicken. Why is it festive? Well, when you're roasting chicken for guests, you want to have that golden brown, beautiful skin on the outside. And sometimes to achieve that, you have to cook them in a really high temperature oven, which then yields to your kitchen getting really hot, potentially the drippings burning on the pan and smoking out your whole kitchen. So in order to create a beautiful roast chicken that is golden brown on the outside without cranking the heat of your oven, we are slow roasting these birds at 300 degrees for 3 hours. We are going to cover them in this spice blend that we have here. It's salt, brown sugar, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and black pepper. And this will contribute to the color developing on the outside of the skin, as well as the glaze that we'll prepare later. Mentioning it now, but we'll talk about it in detail later. And again, the combination of these 3 things will give us that beautiful golden brown bird without the stress of potentially smoking out your kitchen. First things first, in the recipe, I ask you to cover it in salt and sugar the day before Thanksgiving. That allows the salt to fully penetrate the flesh. It creates super juicy chicken and dries out the skin as well, which will then help the skin get golden brown in the oven. That's something I would personally recommend doing, but I know that there are a lot of people out there that wouldn't do that and would just wait until the morning of to season it. So we wanted to test this recipe without doing those steps and ensure that it's still delicious. And guess what? It is. So if you don't have the patience or the drive to season your bird the night before, it's gonna be okay. It's still gonna look beautiful. It's still gonna taste beautiful. We've tested it. I am also not using a traditional roasting rack because I assume most of the people watching this program don't have a roasting rack because why would you? So we're just doing a wire rack lined sheet pan. It will create good airflow underneath the bird, which will allow the skin on the bottom to get some air and it won't steam. Getting this seasoned all over, seasoning the inside as well. And we're not putting stuffing inside the cavity because people who do that, I'm so sorry, that's like really psychotic. So these are regular 4-pound birds, a pretty standard size for a roast chicken. And I typically think of one chicken feeding 3 to 4 people, depending on how hungry you are. Since this is Thanksgiving and there are so many side dishes, it's safe to say that one chicken can feed 4 to 5 people. This step is technically optional, but again, since it's the festive roast chicken, that's the name of the recipe if you forgot. Since it's a festive roast chicken, I wanted it to look as festive as possible, and I feel like the traditional trussing of poultry is just like festive. We're gonna wanna tuck the wing tips behind like that so that they don't burn. You get the legs, you cross them, you get the twine, you wrap it around. Now, the reason why people truss their poultry is because it creates a more even cook on the bird. It allows the breasts and the legs to cook closer to the same time and temperature. For some reason, I feel like this chicken has like a broken back because maybe like a dislocated spine of sorts. Like his lower half is sort of leaning. Did we get that? I'm giving him a chiropractic adjustment. All right, well, if he's cockeyed, it's not my fault. You're gonna want these to have sat at room temp for at least 20 minutes to an hour before roasting them. I'm like really annoyed by the status of his lean. It's like giving scoliosis. I'm gonna let those chickens chill at room temp for another 10 minutes before putting it in the oven. And in the meantime, we're gonna get started on our rolls. All right, so we have our paste, flour, about 2.5 cups. I call for bread flour, but honestly, we're using all purpose. 2/3 cup milk, 1 egg, sugar, 1/4 cup, salt, yeast. That's gonna give us that beautiful pillowy rise. And then melted butter, 4 tablespoons. Now, if you made just this, you would have your traditional Parker House roll. So if you want, you can stop here. But we're going crazy and we're adding Thanksgiving herbs. We have a blend of sage, rosemary, and thyme. My sous chef, Seth, had a really fun idea. If you wanted to like really lean into the Thanksgiving flavors, you could also add chicken bouillon powder to this and make them like chicken flavored rolls. And I think that's a genius idea, but unfortunately I don't have any chicken powder. So now we just knead this until elastic. A good rule of thumb when watching any cooking video by me is to take everything I say about baking with a grain of salt. There's a good chance I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I do. When we recipe tested this, we cooked it in a 9-inch round cake pan. I left that in my apartment in the city. So we're gonna see if it works in this. It will, for sure. I like low-key might text Seth and ask him if it's supposed to look like this. He went to the grocery store. We have to get wine for tonight and we have to wait until the liquor store is opened. So he's going on a wine run. I'm calling in reinforcements. I'm making the dough for the rolls and I just wanted to make sure it looks right.
It looks a little wet.
It looks wet? I thought it looked dry. Oh my God, I'm so glad I called you. Seth is our resident baking expert. His mom used to make wedding cakes, so.
See you, bye.
Thank you, bye. So last year for Friendsgiving, I roasted a whole turkey. It was my first time roasting a whole turkey, but I wanted to give the people some turkey content for the holidays. And I was very transparent about it to my audience saying, this is the first time I've ever roasted a turkey, but here's what I know. And some Karen in the comments, honestly, I love her for this. She goes, if this is your first time roasting a turkey, why would we listen to anything you say? And I was like, so true. I don't listen to the haters when they're wrong, but when they're right, I get a chuckle. Forgive, but never forget. Okay, I'm gonna put the chickens in. My oven is temping at 300. Gorgeous, gorgeous girls. All right, the glaze. This is a maple glaze. It's got maple syrup, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and butter and vinegar. It's gonna give our birds a nice lacquered golden brown outside. It's also gonna add some sweetness. And then obviously everything's better with butter. Just gonna combine that, let that simmer. And then to baste, one of my favorite kitchen tools is this tool I have in my hands right here. It is a rubber pastry brush. The problem with a horse-haired pastry brush is that it's impossible to clean. And if someone borrows it for barbecue sauce to brush on grilled chicken, good luck getting the barbecue flavor out of your pastry brush. So that's why I love this rubber pastry brush. It's so easy to clean. It doesn't hold on to flavors. However, when we baste our chickens, if you touch the chicken skin with too much pressure, you'll knock off the seasoning. So the dish that I am making right now is definitely not a traditional Thanksgiving situation. And I also can't take any credit for this whatsoever. I saw this for sale in a jar in Williams-Sonoma a few days ago, and I was immediately intrigued. It was a jar of what they labeled as Thanksgiving chili crisp. And it's basically like a Chinese chili crisp, but with Thanksgiving herbs. And I thought that was just like so kind of iconic. And so I'm making my version, but we are gonna use chilies to add some heat because two things that Thanksgiving dinner lacks is texture and crunch, and also heat, like spiciness. And I'm just gonna pick some fresh rosemary and thyme that I had dried by hanging upside down for a few days in a cool, dark place. Not necessary, but it just makes them crispier and crunchier. Thinly sliced shallots and garlic and grapeseed oil. So I'm actually gonna start frying the shallots and garlic while I pull these herbs. So we're gonna add our thinly sliced shallots and thinly sliced garlic to cold oil and heat that over medium-high. Okay, so we have our herbs, rosemary, sage, thyme, and then a fun little ingredient that I added butter seasoning, dried butter powder, and it tastes like popcorn. And now I'm gonna add the herbs. Looking good, looking sharp. And now I'm gonna prep the bowl that we're gonna pour this into, because once it starts getting golden brown, it can burn pretty quickly. So you wanna get ahead of that. Heat-proof bowl, fine mesh sieve, the chili flakes, which are optional, and then some black pepper, because again, black pepper and Thanksgiving to me are just like hand in hand. And the reason we don't have this in there with everything else is because we don't want to necessarily cook these ingredients. We just want the hot oil to like activate their flavors. Oh my God, hey, Seth's back with the alcohol.
Party's here.
Woo! In about 2 hours, I'll have my first glass of champagne, I've decided. While that's going, I'm gonna get a pot on for the stuffing. We're starting to get a blonde color on our garlic and shallots, which means we're about a few seconds out from this being done. Remember to hydrate. Every time I make Thanksgiving, I'm reminded that like low-key, it's like kind of easy compared to like other menus I've prepared. I'm like, we're like halfway there. I'm jinxing myself. All right, this is like almost done. You have to time it perfectly or else some will be burnt and some will be undercooked. And the reason we're straining out the garlic and onions is so that they can cool out of the oil and get crispy. If they cool in the oil, they'll get soggy. Let this and this cool to room temperature completely, and then you can combine them, which we will do later. Stuffing is my favorite Thanksgiving dish. Actually, no, mashed potatoes. But mashed potatoes, I don't consider just Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh, wait, actually, I know what we're doing. We're not gonna do the stuffing just yet. First, I'm gonna show you something I'm very proud of. Something that I've been loving recently with food trends is the resurgence of like retro food. I feel like for a hot second there in the 2010s, we were taking ourselves like really seriously and we lost the whimsy. And so I'm excited to bring back the whimsy. So one of the retro foods that I love for Thanksgiving is a butter turkey. You can buy a butter turkey at the grocery store, or you could do what I did and find a vintage stainless steel turkey butter mold and make your own butter turkeys. And the greatest part about this is you can have unlimited butter turkeys for the rest of your life. You give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for life. This one I already made, obviously. This one has been sitting in the mold overnight. Taking it out of the mold is not a perfect system. I mean, I'm gonna warm it up with the back of my hand or with the palm of my hand. Look at those feathers. And this is gonna go with our bread and butter course. Okay, don't panic. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna fix it. It's gonna be fine. So I'm gonna put these back in the fridge. I'll quickly show you how to fill one. Softened butter, turkey mold. You wanna make sure you get into the crevices and there are no air pockets. Yay, chill it in the fridge until chilled. Time to glaze the chicken. Transparently, I did glaze it once off camera, sorry. We're 2 hours in. We're doing our second glaze. That was a really great sound. Could you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, coming through clear. Should we turn this into an ASMR video? All right, that's enough. Back in the oven for another hour. Rolls. Use a pastry cutter, don't do what I'm doing. Sometimes when I do something that's like dangerous and I don't want to show people what I'm doing, but I want it to like still be in the video, I'll censor it. I'll do like a blur. Like, she told us to do this. Nope. How do I get to 12 from 4? You're so right. Math is hard. Rolling them into tight little balls. Nice. I have a floured surface over here, but it's actually best to roll them out like that on an unfloured surface because they kind of like catches on the counter and you're able to get a tighter sphere. So right now, they're quite squishy. We need to create tension. Much less. All right, what am I doing after this? Stuffing? Stuffing. Covering these, allowing them to rise one last time before we pop them in the oven. We're gonna start on our stuffing. This is I don't wanna say classic or traditional because as we've discussed, everyone's version of classic Thanksgiving is so different. But to me, this is pretty classic stuffing. It's just a sausage stuffing. Hey, she smells the sausage. We're doing some sweet Italian sausage. If you're vegetarian, skip the sausage altogether and you'll be fine. If you want, you could throw in some mushrooms. With Millie supervising. Unfortunately, I can't let you eat raw meat, Millie. I would love to do that for you, but it's just not happening. I feel like there should be a sign in the entrance of my kitchen that just says like disclaimer, there will be dog hair in your food. It's kind of like on a menu where it's like consuming undercooked raw seafood could kill you, but here's our ceviche. First step to our sausage and sourdough stuffing is to brown the sausage. We're gonna get it started with a touch of olive oil. While that heats up, let's chat sourdough. I tore up 2 sourdough boules and I laid it out on a sheet pan overnight to dry out because we want stale bread for our stuffing so that it absorbs all of the delicious moisture. It's almost like a baked bread pudding, but like savory, and it's fabulous. I tore the pieces into 1 2-inch pieces. I prefer tearing them over cubing them with a knife because you get these great craggly pieces that get really nice and crispy in the oven. There's just like more surface area, more texture. And again, we're baking it in a baking dish. So I'm gonna butter this. I'm just covered in butter. My stuffing gets white wine. I think it adds a nice acidity to it, plays off of the sour notes from the sourdough. If you don't consume alcohol, skip this step, but the alcohol will burn off, so it's not like you have to worry about people getting drunk off stuffing. My hands are so buttery. Can you see? Like they're glazed. My knuckles. These are all of our stuffing ingredients. We have fennel, onion, celery, parsley. We're gonna get some other herbs involved. A nice blend of sage, thyme, and rosemary. Those would make beautiful names for triplets. Now, if I was a smart person, I would have just stripped a bunch of herbs in the beginning of the day instead of doing this multiple times for multiple different recipes. But we're learning, we're living, we're laughing, we're loving. Sage is so good, so fall. Fun fact, this recipe is from my very first cookbook, which I self-published when I had 200 Instagram followers, and I sold it to my friends and family during the holidays to earn some extra money during the pandemic. I no longer make copies of this cookbook. People are always asking me like, when can I get a copy of your cookbooks? Referring to these like little booklets I made and printed and sold online. And I'm like, never, literally never. Those are not coming back into the rotation, unfortunately. But there are some really great recipes in there, and this is one of them. Sausage is about done. You wanna break it up into like a fine mince so that it can evenly distribute throughout the stuffing. It's time to cook down our veg, but first, 1.5 sticks of butter. Duh. My hand is still covered in butter. Onions first, and we're gonna cook those down until soft. We're adding the fennel and the celery. I'm gonna let those sweat for 5 minutes-ish. While that is working, I'm actually gonna start chopping the potatoes for our mashed potatoes. How did I start cooking? I think it's because growing up, I had an older brother. And as the younger sister, I didn't exactly have control over the remote for the television. And so he would always be using the TV to play video games or watch football. And I had no interest in that. So I chose to sit in the kitchen with my mom while she cooked dinner and watched Food Network. I would always be like, how do you do that? How do you do this? What's that? Kind of annoying. But that's where I got like my interest in food. And for the longest time, I always said I didn't want to pursue a career in the food industry because I thought a lot of people had wrong opinions about what tastes good and what doesn't. And I was like, I don't want to have to cook food that other people like. I want to cook food that I like. I was also a picky eater, so there were certain foods that I liked prepared certain ways, like pancakes. I didn't like when they were brown on the outside. I wanted them to be like pale golden. I would say I want them a blonde color. And so I learned how to make pancakes because I was tired of my parents who kept messing up my pancakes. And then I just started cooking more for my friends in high school and I realized in college, and I realized like, okay, I think I'm like kind of good at this. Got really into watching cooking videos on YouTube and begged my parents to let me go to culinary school after college, and they said yes. And here we are. But my mom was a fabulous home cook. I like to say she was like a Martha Stewart mom. And so she was a big influence on me getting into cooking. My family Thanksgivings were iconic. And that kind of got me into hosting because I realized like how fun a dinner party could be. Everyone in my family prefers Thanksgiving over Christmas for that reason. Okay, so we have our potatoes in here. Golden potatoes for the mashed potatoes. Golden instead of russet because they create a smoother mash, but you could totally do russet if that's all you have. Big pinch of salt. Bring this to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, 15, 20 minutes. And when it comes to a boil, I'm gonna start heating up the milk. So 2 half cups, a whole cup of white wine. 1, 2. Gonna let that reduce. You know the wine has burned off when it's reduced by 2/3 in volume. Once all of that liquid has almost completely evaporated, you're in the clear. The chicken is done cooking. It's time to take the chicken out. We've reached the stage of the day where delirium has settled in. Oh, look how gorgy. That's incredible. So this is kind of like a bread pudding in that you're tossing stale bread with liquid and eggs. And so to prevent the eggs from scrambling, I'm just gonna add some of this chicken stock. Now we are at the point of the stuffing making where the onions, the celery, and the fennel are all nice and soft. The wine has evaporated and reduced. I'm gonna add the bread. Again, this is 2 loaves of sourdough. The recipe calls for 1, but the loaves that we got were pretty small, so I'm gonna add some, not all. If you forget to leave your bread out overnight, you can make it stale by transferring it into a 250-degree oven for like an hour or 2 until it sounds like that. Sausage, back in. Chicken stock, mix. Eggs and black pepper and salt. We're now gonna add in our herbs. Again, this is finely chopped parsley, thyme, sage, and rosemary. We are now transferring it into a baking dish. Now what we want to do is kind of position pieces of bread on the top so that they get nice and golden brown in the oven. We're now going to bake the stuffing for 45 minutes covered at 350 and 45 minutes uncovered at 350. So I'll see you in 45 minutes when we uncover the stuffing. We're using the mini oven. For the potatoes, I just put milk and cream in a saucepan and we're going to infuse it with thyme and garlic. Lots of butter. And we just want this to come up to a simmer. We don't want it to boil, and that will melt the butter and infuse the milk and cream with the flavors of the thyme. Black pepper. Meanwhile, I gotta get a move on with these taters. So we're gonna strain the potatoes and let them kind of chill out in the strainer. You see all this steam coming off these potatoes? We want the potatoes to release all of that steam before we mash them. Otherwise, all that water is trapped in our mashed potatoes. I'm gonna be using a food mill. I just got this thing. So what we're doing is essentially pushing the potatoes through these little holes. That is the restaurant secret to the fluffiest mashed potatoes. A potato ricer is kind of like a giant garlic press. This, we're pushing them through by cranking. The reason why I chose to get a food mill instead of a potato ricer for this house is because you can also use this to make tomato sauce. It's gonna be noisy and unpleasant. This is a really great activity to make your friends do because they can't really mess it up. I literally might get a bag of ice and put it on my head. I'm so hot and this is like making my armpits sweat. I'm like so not having fun. And we're not even halfway done. I bet there are gonna be people in the comments being like, you're using that wrong. That's why it's taking so long. I'll be like, yeah, you're probably right. Should I put a towel around my neck? Like a boxer? Play the Rocky theme. Da-da-da. The towel's working, honestly. If I'm not jacked by tomorrow, I just felt sweat drip down my kneecap. So can you see it coming out? That's what I've been doing this whole time. Pushing them through those tiny holes. I'm gonna start crying. But once you see how fluffy they are, you're gonna be like, wow, I surrender. There's still some taters in there, I don't care. So we're gonna fold in the cream, straining out those herbs and garlic. Potatoes need a lot of salt. Oh my God, my right arm is not okay. The thing with the mashed potatoes, the longer they sit, the more they absorb this liquid, this cream and milk mixture. So you want them to be on the loose side when you initially add it, because it's gonna tighten up as it sits. I'm gonna taste them, make sure they're salted enough, and then I'm gonna transfer them into this oven-safe serving dish so that we can pop them in a warm oven before we put them on the table. I mean, that's amazing. Seth, could you help me with this?
Smell it.
Huh?
It smells really good.
I thought you said you smell like onions. It's like, all right, listen, don't add insult to injury. We're gonna make some gravy. Typically gravy is made in the roasting pan that your turkey has roasted in. With that said, making gravy a la minute while you're also hosting Thanksgiving isn't a pleasurable experience. So I like to get it out of the way the day before, and then I get the pan drippings from my roast turkey and I pour it into my gravy, whisk it, reheat it, and we're ready to go. And what we have here is some butter, some flour, some shallots, our chicken stock or turkey stock, and then some fun ingredients to bump up the flavor of our gravy. First, we're gonna start off by adding this butter into our saucepan. But yeah, I've seen a lot of sad gravies in my day of viewing people's food on the internet. Some of you guys are making like really ugly gravy. It should be like a nice, dark, luscious brown color. Finely diced shallots. You could also do onions, and you could also skip this step. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If you're finicky about the visual texture of your gravy, you could strain out the shallots when you're done. So now we're gonna gradually whisk in the flour and toast it in the butter. We wanna cook out the raw flavor of the flour, and then it's gonna act as our thickening agent for our gravy. So we have a nice, thick, luscious gravy, not something watery and sad. I'm also gonna add a little spoonful of miso. This is something I usually just like have in my fridge. Toss it in. It adds a nice depth of flavor, a nice saltiness. It doesn't taste like miso, it just tastes salty and a little bit funky. Whisking to make sure we break up any big chunks. Ooh, it smells nutty and delicious. That's what you want. I'm gonna start slowly whisking in our warm chicken stock. If you add all the liquid at once, it can get lumpy. Ooh. You can see it's a nice nappe, which means it coats the back of a spoon. So what we have right now is a delicious start to our gravy. Like I said, we are planning to eventually pour the pan drippings of the turkey in here. The flavor we have right now isn't the flavor we're gonna finish with, but some ways to bump up the flavor and the color and appearance of your gravy. Soy sauce. It's gonna make it nice and salty, but it's also gonna give us that like deep, rich, dark brown gravy color that we want. If you have, oh, that's fine. I thought the stopper was on there, it wasn't. This is just regular soy sauce, but if you have dark soy sauce, even better. That'll give an even darker hue of brown to your gravy. So before it was like kind of a sad grayish brown color, and now we're getting closer to this like mahogany. MSG, another quick and easy way to bump up your gravy. Okay, that's amazing. Considering we have no drippings in here and it tastes this good is like honestly shocking. Well, not shocking to me because I knew this was gonna happen, but like to package this up. So again, this is something I would do the night before Thanksgiving. I would then put it into some containers. Let this cool until it's room temperature before putting in your fridge. If you put it in your fridge while it's still piping hot like this, it will increase the temperature of your entire refrigerator and could potentially cause food in there to spoil. When it's turkey time, throw it in a saucepan, heat it up, pour the drippings from your roasting pan into the gravy, and that's it. Somebody smells gravy. Is this what you smell? Is that not me? Oh my gosh, the tail. Millie approved gravy. I'm about to crack open my third energy drink of the day, if that gives you any context as to how we're feeling. But the show must go on. So our stuffing rolls have risen, and we're gonna brush them with egg wash and pop them in the oven. We're gonna pop these in a 350-degree oven for like 20 minutes until they're golden brown and baked. Let's check on the stuffing. I may or may have forgotten to set a timer. It appears as though the temperature has dropped. Back in the oven, uncovered for 40 minutes. Next, we're gonna be roasting a whole stalk of Brussels sprouts. So if you didn't know, this is how Brussels sprouts grow in this little tree situation. It's quite festive, it's quite whimsical, and I thought, how fun would it be to keep it whole? The pros of doing it this way, significantly less prep time, and also, it's cute. Gets people excited about eating Brussels sprouts. Put this on a buffet and tell me people wouldn't ooh and ah, be like, oh my God, what is that? I'm just gonna do salt and pepper, and then I'm probably gonna dress it with some balsamic vinegar right before serving. Putting it in a 400-ish oven until crispy. Uh-oh, it's too tall. I'm shoving it in. Pumpkin spice, pumpkin spice, pumpkin spice. Okay, time to talk about pie. There are two people in this world, people who love pumpkin pie and people who hate pumpkin pie. I like pumpkin pie for the nostalgia, but I agree, the texture leaves something to be desired. It's a little bit not great. So what we've done is we've created a pie that will please both the pumpkin pie lovers and the pumpkin pie haters at your dinner table. And we have done that by creating this brown butter maple pumpkin spice pie. I made this morning. It's been chilling in the fridge. We're gonna top it with a beautiful dramatic meringue. But what the contents of this are: maple syrup, eggs, maple extract, vanilla extract, salt, cornmeal, and milk powder. The pie itself uses 4 egg yolks. So I figured, why not use those egg whites to make a beautiful meringue and make this the showstopper that you deserve to have on your Thanksgiving table. I'm gonna put it back in the fridge now, and we're gonna make the meringue and go from there. Oh my God. Remember when I doubted myself? I'm gonna let these cool for a few minutes before we do a taste test, because chef snacks are extremely important. In the meantime, we're gonna start on the marshmallow meringue for the topping of our pie. Egg whites, the egg whites from the eggs that we used in the pie. Whipping this with salt and cream of tartar. While that's going, we're gonna warm up some sugar and water. Other meringues, you can add sugar to the egg white mixture directly. Cooking the sugar into a sugar syrup and adding it slowly into the egg whites, it stabilizes it. This can actually be done up to 2 days in advance. We're gonna heat the sugar syrup until it's 250. We're close. We're so close. All right, it's showtime. It's getting glossy. Let's see. Ooh. We're gonna keep going. That's a soft peek. All right, that looks good. Now we're gonna add vanilla bean paste and a pinch of pumpkin spice, because we're gonna keep the theme going. If you don't have vanilla bean paste, vanilla extract also works. That's fabulous. I'm gonna transfer this into a quart container. Let's finish up this Thanksgiving chili crisp. These have cooled. They're crispy, they're crunchy, they're gorgeous. We're gonna add them into this oil with our chilies. We're gonna season with a pinch of salt, and then I'm gonna add some of this butter seasoning. Tastes like buttery Thanksgiving. This looks amazing. Now you can drizzle this on anything on your Thanksgiving plate and it'll taste great. Stuffing's ready. She got a little extra brown on the top, but that's okay. I'm blaming these ovens for never being the correct temperature. Let's check on our brussies while we're down here. Looking pretty good. Honestly, they feel done. And now we're at that awkward stage in the dinner prep where everything's ready at the same time and you're out of counter space. That's amazing. Scoop out the insides. This is for the salad. It is a baby kale salad atop broiled delicata squash. These funky looking squash I adore because they're just so fun and festive. We're just gonna broil them for like a few minutes or a few seconds, depending on how hot your broiler is. Salt. I'm gonna go get a salad plate so I can plate a sample for you. Salad dressing. This we made yesterday. The salad consists of the roasted squash, baby kale, and chopped candied pecans. It's a simple salad, but it gets the job done. If you want, you could throw in goat cheese, but again, we're keeping it simple, we're keeping it easy breezy. It's Friendsgiving, no need to like go crazy. I'm also gonna dress the salad directly in this container. It's been triple washed. I trust them. This is my champagne vinaigrette salad dressing. It's my favorite salad dressing. I use it for lots and lots of salads, except since we are in autumn, I switched out the honey for maple syrup. And then there's shallots, thyme, champagne vinegar, olive oil, Dijon. The ways that I find shortcuts to not do dishes would amaze you. This is what we're looking for, minimal color. Again, this squash cooks super quickly. This menu is proportioned for 8 people. If you're doing 8 salads, you'd probably have to do another tray of this. I like to have the squash rings poking out on the sides. Plop it right on top. Ta-da! 1 second. We're back. Ooh, I kind of like threw out my hip there. Now that we are minutes away from dinner time, minutes away from our guests arriving, I am going to assemble an interactive little fruit tower. It will double as decor and as an appetizer. Pretty cute, no? So what we have here are local fresh pears, persimmons, and pomegranates in this vintage stainless steel tower that I thrifted. And I'm gonna fill it in with some grapes and some Parmesan cheese so people can snack on it as they're waiting for dinner. And what I like to do instead of cubing by cutting, stab and twist, and it creates these like gorgeous little chunks of cheese that don't look too like, you know, like the pre-cubed cheddar in a store-bought crudité platter. We want the opposite of that look. I am anti-appetizers on Thanksgiving. I think so long as you have something for people to nibble on if they're ravenous. Rosemary crackers. I like these crackers, especially for this application, because they're long. Like, hey, come grab me. For Thanksgiving wine pairings, I personally recommend serving champagne before dinner / with the salad, and then red wine with the entree platter, the entrees, the mains. And I've enlisted the help of my cousin, who's very knowledgeable in wine, to educate me on some fabulous wine recommendations from various different price points that he would recommend serving with Thanksgiving dinner. We couldn't find those exact bottles, but these are what the guy at the wine shop recommended are similar. This is our highest price point. Lower price point, this is a Beaujolais, a Gamay from Beaujolais, Pinot Noir, and something else from France. Moral of the story is fabulous wine exists at multiple different price points. And then this is my favorite champagne. I have red wine glasses on the table setting, and then I use white wine glasses for champagne because I prefer that over champagne flutes. And what we'll do is we'll go around the table and ask who wants champagne, pour it and bring it to them, rather than clutter the table with 2 wine glasses. Cheers. You know you're an adult when you start using different wine glasses for red and white wine, and I've officially graduated to that stage of adulthood. It's time to eat. Beaujolais. Oh, well, whatever. Beaujolais. Beaujolais. Don't listen to anything I say about wine, honestly.